we had never needed to really ask for referrals from clients, and so never felt comfortable, felt almost awkward. But I'll tell you, the amount of referrals we've gotten from clients and the size of the relationships we've received, it's dwarfed what we were getting. So, that was a fear we had that has been squashed. Our growth from client referrals has been way more than we had, just exponentially higher than what we ever experienced when we were there.
The idea of being able to build our own culture, that's one of the things we did start feeling a little bit of friction on at Wells, was just corporate culture. And you're going to probably feel that anywhere in any large corporation, but the guys over PWS, they really seem to be a good fit for us, and it gave us the freedom to kind of build the business that we wanted to be able to have, not just for ourselves, obviously, as the owners and as the advisors, but also for our other employees and folks that in many instances are the face of the business as well, being able to create an environment for them that we felt like was going to allow us to shine.
Everybody we've met over these 3 years, you just really form these really good relationships and bonds because everybody's so open to like sharing what they're doing well. And asking, what are you doing? What are you doing well? Oh man, that's great. And I feel like you always learn something in a way to get better.
I would honestly put that compliance department against any broker-dealer compliance department out there. They have demonstrated time and again over the last 3 years that they are trying to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in a compliant way.
Ask someone, you obviously want to keep it confidential that you're considering leaving, so you need to talk to people you trust, but talk to other firms. Don't be afraid to join a team, to partner with somebody. Don't just chase the dollar, chase the money. Find a place that fits your soul and what you're trying to build in your business. And, independence can feel scary, but the freedom is 100%.
Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today. We have a really good one for you today. Last week, I published a podcast just kind of stating the case for supported independence. And Josh Paddock and Clark Smith are perfect advisors to give you an inside look in terms of what that actually looks like. When Josh and Clark, who are on the podcast with us today, and Jason Buckley and Derek Oglesby, who are not, decided to leave Wells Fargo in 2022. They were one of the largest teams at that time to join the Kestra Private Wealth Services supported independence platform with about $600 million in assets under management. This podcast today is just going to be an inside look at what led them to leave a large national bank and launch an independent practice, what their experience has been like 3 years in, and just also how their business and client experience has changed since they've made the leap to independence. Josh, Clark, I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. Guys, before we get started, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you got to where you are today, I think that would be super helpful for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we the four of us were a team at Wells Fargo. Derek, I think, was the OG partner there, and slowly piecemealed the team together at Wells Fargo. We'd all been there for quite a while and worked together in different capacities, but over time put that team together, and eventually decided that we wanted to try to do something special.
Yeah. Well, for me, been in the business for about 20 years and been an advisor for about 10. And, for me, it's, coming back from a background of sports, one of the things that I found in our industry is athletes tend to make very successful advisors in our business. And I think it's the ability in sports to learn from failure. And, so you get to learn, when you fail, that's how you learn and get better at what you do. So for us, that's I think really driven us, and we've worked on the things that have worked well in our industry and things that we knew could do better and we could do better at. And that's one thing that's helped us get where we are today. So
that's great. I know you being a former professional pitcher, are a lot of your clients ex-athletes?
I would say a good portion of clients are. We have a good mix. We have a few professional athletes, in our business, but the majority of people have been in athletics at some point in their life, right? So I think the lessons you learn from that really carry on in your success in business and in work environment and working with a team, working with people in any industry. So I would say it's a pretty good chunk.
This question is for both of you or whoever wants to take it, but Now, what were some of the things going on inside of Wells Fargo, or some of the things that really wanted to do that maybe you couldn't, that got you started looking around in the marketplace?
Well, I think, to be honest, things were going pretty well for us at Wells. We had a very good relationship with the bank side channel. We had a very good relationship with management, and we were very successful there. And we felt like we worked that model really well, and worked with some really great people there. But I think part of what started us down that path was starting to see what some of the competition in the independent space was able to do. Started listening to podcasts like yours to be able to hear what are other people trying to do out there, what they're able to bring to the table. Um, some of the depth of the financial planning that we knew we didn't have access to at the time. The different outside of your core financial planning, your cash flow planning, things of that nature, getting into the tax planning, healthcare planning, things along that line. That we couldn't do ourselves. We had the skill set for, had the training for, but just didn't have the tools available for us to be able to do those things.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Wells really gave us a strong foundation for our business. We really had a desire to have a team um, really built to serve our clients better. We knew that we were better together than we were individually. And Wells tried to put a little emphasis on a team environment, but they're really restricted from the confines of the corporate structure that you have at a big institution like that. And very limited freedom to innovate your business to really fit your clients' needs. And so it was a great foundation for us, and we enjoyed our time there. And our business was just at a point where we were ready to move on to bigger and better things.
I know you're an extremely financial planning focused firm. When you started exploring in the industry, what were some of the things that just got you really, really excited about the future?
I
I
think
would say one of the first things that we saw was when we were doing our due diligence, and actually it was Kestra who pointed us out to a team and that was really utilizing very well Plan, which is a tax planning software. And in our world, you couldn't even mention tax counseling or advice. And to us, it's extremely vital as a fiduciary to make sure you are understanding a client's tax situation as you manage, especially taxable accounts. And we would always try and do tax loss harvesting when we could, but when you don't have a really good picture of a client's whole tax situation, they may have assets somewhere else. They may have a lot of carry forward losses. And, the idea of being able to utilize tax planning as an advisor for proactive advice, just not reactive advice from a tax planning structure, that tech stack for Plan to our business excited me probably more than almost anything.
Yeah, I think the tech stack that we were able to see, and put together, having more of an open architecture to go out there and pick the tech that fit us and what we were trying to do was very exciting. Just the depth of planning that we could do. The other thing that was exciting was the idea of being able to build our own culture. That's one of the things we did start feeling a little bit of friction on at Wells, was just corporate culture. And you're going to probably feel that anywhere in any large corporation. But the guys over PWS, they really seem to be a good fit for us. And it gave us the freedom to kind of build the business that we wanted to be able to have, not just for ourselves, obviously, as the owners and as the advisors, but also for our other employees and folks that in many instances are the face of the business as well. And being able to create an environment for them that we felt like was going to allow us to shine more. That was exciting for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Scott and Rob, fantastic guys, but the ability for somebody that, still understands the wirehouse/bank language and could just kind of, translate that into a language that you understand to help you understand the independent channel and all the cool things about it in the best way possible is just extremely valuable throughout the process for sure. So what types of firms were you considering at the beginning of your exploration process? Did you know you wanted to go independent, create your own enterprise, or were you looking at a W-2 type of options as well?
I think Josh and I knew we wanted to go independent.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily consensus among the team in the beginning. Um, but again, going back to the some of the corporate culture friction, I didn't feel confident that we could land anywhere else in particular under a W-2 model and be able to avoid that for the long term. So we considered it. We didn't just completely throw it out, but I would say there was definitely a leaning from the beginning towards the independent model. So we looked at firms like Commonwealth, which obviously give you an extremely open architecture. We looked at the Wells Fargo Finet program. We looked at um, Janney was one that we looked at, I guess, from a W-2 model standpoint. And Stewart Partners obviously has a little bit of a different um, setup there and structure. So there were quite a few different ones that we looked at, but we didn't give the major wirehouses um, too much consideration just because we knew that was going to be not a good use of their time or ours.
Sure. And just out of curiosity, why did you pick the supported independence model versus going out there and launching it yourself? And just for advisors that don't know, supported independence is, while you're still at your firm, and you commit to a firm like Kestra Private Wealth Services, they're going out there, they're taking down the office space, they're helping you build your brand, your website, setting up payroll, marketing materials. So literally day one, you're cutting the ribbon to your new independent office. And, instead of dealing with all of those headaches, you're just focusing on bringing over your clients and making them happy. And I hope I didn't just answer the question for you. Maybe I did, but why choose that over doing it yourself?
Yeah, I think, when where we came from, being at a, big bank and that W-2 stability, safety, peace of mind, transitioning 100% to independent and having just complete autonomy to having to run your entire practice was a little daunting and overwhelming. And I think it was just a risk that we were willing to explore, but we just felt a little more comfortable with the hybrid, independent supported model. I mean, it let us really develop the practice, our business the way we had envisioned it for our clients and focus on our clients first. And there's a lot of aspects of running the business that just that weight was lifted for us. And so we were able to, make a seamless transition from a W-2 model to being independent with support that just made that transition, I think, and in my opinion, way more successful than had we gone 100% independent.
I think
I,
we
I,
were pretty excited about all the new things we knew we were going to be able to do. And in the end, we all still wanted to be advisors. And we wanted to spend the majority of our time being advisors. And so I think that PWS model was very attractive because it allowed us. I mean, obviously, there was a lot more that we were going to have to do being business owners from a business management standpoint. The freedom that we have to be more creative in the way we run our business, it, it's double-edged sword because you get that freedom to be creative and to create a culture and a business model and a service model that is more reflective of who you are as a team. But at the same time, it creates the work in order to build that. And so a lot of the logistical things that Kestra PWS was able to handle for us and just take that off of our plates, it was a no-brainer, I think, in the end.
yeah, I mean, I tell financial advisors that are looking at independence all the time. And Clark, I thought you just said it perfectly, but I mean, you have unlimited options in the way that you can, communicate to clients and serve your clients. But the downside is that you have unlimited ways to communicate and serve with your clients. And, sometimes it's a little daunting in the beginning because there's just so many options and just even knowing where to start. So just kind of moving up to, figuring out that you wanted to go with Kestra Private Wealth Services. I mean, how long were you working with them to kind of set up the office, set up all of the things in the background prior to your transition?
Uh, I think we went, and Josh, you can correct me on this. I think we went and visited the Kestra home office in November of, I think it was early November of 21. And so we launched in May of 22. So, 6, 7 months. That being said, obviously we've been doing a lot of the thought work behind
Mhm.
leading up to that point before making a final decision on where we wanted to land. But um, Kestra had a wonderful team. Shout out to Kevin and those guys. They did a fantastic job helping us locate the spot. It wasn't without its challenges, but it wasn't Kestra's fault. It was just our local market and some one-off things that we had to deal with in dealing with real estate, which that kind of stuff just comes up. But um, it was great because we when it was time to make our move, we did our resignations and walked over to an office that was ready to go, and we're able to start working pretty immediately.
That's
Yeah, I think
amazing.
Kestra really blew us away because, to kind of expand on what Clark was talking about, I'll give a little more clarity to that situation. We had a building we were getting ready to buy, and the seller backed out last minute. And so here we were scrambling a few months out. I don't even know if it was a few months out, maybe like 6 weeks out from needing to basically have a building. And, they came to us, do you guys want to push back your exit date? What do you want to do? And we were ready. We were prepared and ready to leave. And so they helped us, scramble, find an awesome temp location and find a place that we could lease in this downtown Greenville, which is beautiful. Our office is incredible. And they helped us get this office ready. And we were in a temp space for, I don't know, how long were we in that temp space? 6 weeks, maybe
Yeah, it
not
was
even.
less than 3 months for sure. I don't know how
Yeah.
long.
So, Kevin and all them just helped us really find a phenomenal location and make that experience that was quite the hiccup right before break date, make it easy for us.
That's amazing. I love that. Hey, breaking in real quick. I really hope you're enjoying this episode and finding my YouTube channel of value. If you're a high performing financial advisor that can use somebody as a guide or a resource to explore all your transition options out there in the marketplace, I'm a non biased, independent transition consultant that can help make this process so much easier for you. And another plus, it costs absolutely nothing to work with me. If you want to have a conversation, please feel free to text, call, email, DM me. My contact information is all over this episode, and I'll let you get back to it. So here's every advisor's biggest concern question when I'm working with them. Are the clients going to come with me? What percentage are the clients going to come with me? I mean, how was the transition? How were the conversations? Where did you end up? Would love to hear about that part of the experience.
Yeah, I'll give my 2 cents. And Josh has got a lot more to add on that. But the way I'll word it is that we got just about everything that we wanted. We intentionally culled our book and got it to a more manageable size from a number of clients' perspective. And there's always a couple of surprises here and there. There's a couple of folks we would have loved to have come with us that we haven't given up on yet. We're still less than 3 years out, but it was a very small number, and the success that we've been able to have and the capacity that it opened up for us. Because again, our goal was to do something more, not just repeat what we were already doing, but to be able to do something more and better than what we had already been doing for our clients. And there's no way we could have actually done what we're doing um, at the number of clients and at the breadth of the book that we had at the time.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. Yeah, just from a operational standpoint, for the level of service and experience we were wanting to give clients, and just the expanding of advice. At Wells, we didn't really have the ability to do true financial planning. We could do a retirement plan, but the capabilities of really creating a good custom financial plan was lacking. And so, what we found is we need more time to serve a client well. And so we didn't have the capacity to keep the amount of households we had. So we are now, from a transition standpoint, we're 3 years in, we have 45% of the amount of households that we had at Wells, but yet our AUM is higher than we were when we were there. So, the capacity to serve our clients well that need good advice and need more comprehensive advice has increased significantly. And, that was what we talked about with our clients in that transition was, one of the things we heard was what is the most important thing to you may not be the most important thing to your client when you're calling them in that first week. And it's a shock because you're not allowed to tell clients ahead of time. So it's shocking when the largest team in our region leaves the big bank like that. So, some clients were immediately ready. Let's go. Let's do this. And some just needed some time. You had objections that would come up, and you have advisors calling your clients, you have management from they're calling your clients, and they're all going to do it. You face things like them trying to cut fees, trying to we one of the funny ones we heard was most new businesses fail within the first 12 months. I give it time to see if they survive.
Yeah.
Like in our industry is just different. It's not like starting up a new restaurant on the corner of the street, right? So it's we have a huge book, a great foundation, and we serve the clients. Your clients they're with you, because of the advice you're giving them. And and we felt confident in the level of service and experience and advice we gave clients over the years, and felt confident they would come with us, and they did. And so the ones we use it as a great opportunity to right size the book to be able to serve the clients that needed that customized planning and more in-depth planning and a deeper relationship. And this transition's been better than we hoped, and faster than we hoped.
That's amazing. I think so many financial advisors in a transition, and it's just like this, and with human nature to not want to take a step back at all. And I see it, time and time again when financial advisors transition, and you maybe shed some of the clients that they don't work well with, or maybe aren't necessarily a philosophical fit. It's the exact same story that you were just talking about. But besides right sizing the book, what do you feel like has, led to growth inside of your organization after making the leap? Have referrals been better? Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, I mean the referrals, like that was a little bit of a concern for us, right? Because when you're in the one thing that Wells was good for us was referrals, because you had an army of bankers looking for opportunities, and those had shrunk over the years. Wells had faced some challenging reputational issues, and not in our side of the business, but you can't help it, and they've overcome a lot of that. But so it used to be you'd have people walking in all the time. It was easy. It was just a great referral engine, and that became a little more challenging. But it was still good. It was still healthy. You had good bankers to be able to look for opportunities to refer your way, and that's all that we had known being in the bank channel. So now it's like, oh, now we got to find new business self-sourcing in a new way through marketing, and how's this going to work? And we had never needed to really ask for referrals from clients, and so never felt comfortable, felt almost awkward. But I'll tell you, just the level of service and experience and planning, in-depth planning we do now, the amount of referrals we've gotten from clients and the size of the relationships we've received, it's dwarfed what we were getting at Wells. So, that was a fear we had that has been squashed. Like, our growth from client referrals has been way more than we have, just exponentially higher than what we ever experienced when we were there. And, and there's other avenues that we've now tacked on and added to our business to grow even more in another way that we just wouldn't have had the ability to do when we were at Wells. So yeah, that's been a welcome surprise that we all, I think, had a little bit of angst and fear going into that transition of how we were going to add new business. Because if you're not growing, you're dying in this industry.
I love to hear you say it because when that comes out of a recruiter's mouth, I was sitting down with a JP Morgan team a couple weeks ago, and they're worried about referrals. And I mentioned word for word what they said, and they're like, "There's no way we're going to get more referrals." Making the move over to the independent side. But I'd love for you guys to talk about this in a second, but just, the different ways that you could communicate and help go deeper with your clients and all of these things. On top of, even in my business, I used to be a captive recruiter at two different independent broker dealers, never really got a lot of referrals. And now that, I have my own business, there's just something about it, like deep down, I feel like people, truly relate with and root for. And I've seen it time and time again with everyone I've seen launch a practice. I'd love to talk about some of the things that you are doing differently now. Most people I have on the podcast, they're a year and a half into their transition. Y'all are pretty established at this point. So, I mean, what are some of the things that you're doing different that you love, that your clients love? I think listeners would love to hear about that.
Yeah, we love to talk about it because, like Josh said, clients aren't always quite as excited about some of the things as you are, and that was one of the things that Josh and I know we got very excited about some of the new capabilities that we had, and we became very excited evangelists in some of these meetings where the clients, I think, were kind of maybe even a little taken aback by how excited about the new capabilities. Josh already mentioned Holistic Plan that we use for tax planning, which has been a big game changer. Just the moving over to the full version of eMoney, even from what we had been working with before, to be able to do the level of cash flow financial planning, just the depth of planning that we can do there has been a game changer for a lot of our clients. And then some of the ancillary stuff that still not a whole lot of people, I think, in the independent space are doing, where we can help with healthcare planning. And we partner with other companies, again, thanks to that open architecture, where we can help clients, in a very specific, very customized way, figure out health insurance, not because we're selling them health insurance, but being able to offer that advice. And then the estate planning that we do. I know just about every financial advisor out there says they do estate planning, but the capabilities that we have now to be able to help our clients soup to nuts, be able to do the full gamut of their estate planning. It's just way beyond, what we could do before, besides just giving someone a general overview of the different estate planning documents and what those are.
Some of it is, Kitsis puts out a financial tech stack worksheet that fills up a computer screen in size 8 font. And it can be overwhelming, right? Because there's just so much technology out there. And you can spend every day learning, getting a demo on something new. And, when you came from where we were, where it's all proprietary and it's, some of it was very dated, we became very excited about the tech stack that we've added, and what we added in the beginning was very little. And we also had very little experience in any of it. So, we saw a demo and we found ourselves, pitching to our clients these demos of this tech stack, which we're giddy about, and clients don't care. But they just want good advice. They want to make sure we're doing what's right for them, right? So, we had to step back a little bit and get back to our roots after that excitement of that tech stack, which was more exciting to us than our clients, I think. But it's, the quality of advice has changed drastically. Things you don't think about, like, when it comes to Roth conversions, they were a part of our practice, but they weren't a major part of our business. And now they are. And that conversation now gets so much deeper for them. And we look at the way to model it in our e-money planning, see the amount of tax that saves a client over their lifetime is just the numbers are kind of eye-popping when you really do that analysis, and you actually can see that. And I remember trying to figure this out for a client at Wells once, and I had to go find a Excel spreadsheet that some random guy had built on like Reddit to figure out and calculate all this stuff. And it was so challenging, and it was just clunky, and like you couldn't really help a client figure out what this looked like for them in their future. And then to model it in our tax planning software and Holistiplan to show them, oh no, if we go above this, now we're increasing Medicare premiums. You're triggering, extra tax or whatever here in this side. And there's a lot of consequences to your decisions and your recommendations that could be positive or negative for a client. That having those tools and resources has been a game changer for our clients. And then, the conversation around risk, we use a company called Nitrogen that helps really clients understand, in my opinion, really a better feeling for what their risk tolerance is really is, and what their comfort level should be, and where their portfolio should be as we blend it in their planning. And they get to see it in real dollars. It's not just saying, your downside's 10%, your upside's this, right? What does that mean to a client? A lot of people are like, what does that mean? I don't really care. Sure, I'm comfortable with that. But when you get to see, hey, my portfolio is $1 million, and being down, 15% is $150,000. Am I comfortable with that? Am I comfortable waking up tomorrow and my account's 100? I've just lost 150 grand, right? And that's just in a normal down pullback market, right? What about a major dislocation in the economy, like a 2008, a 2002, or a 22 where the market pulled back, or a 2020 where we had that brief recession, so with COVID. So they get to see the real effects and how their emotions and how they would feel and what kind of decisions they would make to help us navigate their risk and their portfolios better. And it's enhanced returns for them. Honestly, it really has. And then, you mirror that into the wealth.com and the estate planning piece. That's, we get to help facilitate clients from start to finish, get their trust documents set up, get their wills, power of attorneys, and healthcare directives set up, things that clients put off. Estate planning it's scary when you look at the amount of people who actually have estate planning documents in place. And now we get to help facilitate them to get them to the finish line in a very cost-effective way that, is extremely beneficial to them. So every part of our business is better than what we used to be. We have to work a lot harder, but, by going independent, we've shifted some of that revenue that goes to Wells Fargo and the resources they provided us to now we get to shift it to increase support staff, right? So we have 4 times the amount of support staff, which means we get to delegate a lot. So a few of us on the team have learned to be better delegators than we used to be, instead of keeping control of everything. So yeah. So I know it's a little long-winded, but.
No, it's great. I think that's the exact information that financial advisors are looking for. Like, how is this going to change my client experience for the better when making a transition? So that was perfect. We could talk about that for hours. But you talked in the beginning you talked in one of the answers of your questions about just some exciting different ways that you're growing. I know your team has grown since you've made the move to independence. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
There's nothing, reinventing the wheel there. It's just the ability to do things well. And like Josh said, Wells was experiencing its own reputational issues. So the brand recognition had gone from a tailwind to a headwind, in that respect. And so by adding the extra capabilities and the attention that we were put on clients, the client referrals, just from the organic client referrals from our existing base, has been probably the biggest bump in our business to date so far. But it's also the freedom that we've had to be able to, again, be creative with how we do things, being able to do different types of client events, being able to manage our budgets differently, being able to work. Be honest with you, no advisor likes the compliance department just because of all the headaches they have. But shout out to Pedlo and the Kestra compliance department. I would honestly put that compliance department against any broker-dealer compliance department out there, because they have demonstrated time and again over the last 3 years that they are trying to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in a compliant way. They're not there just to tell you no, because in the past it was just you felt like they would say no and then actually read your request. And now it's just if there's anything that could be getting close to crossing the line, let's just have a conversation, figure out how can we do this and make sure we're doing it in a compliant way. And so, again, that opens up a lot more creativity for us from a marketing standpoint, from a client event standpoint, and even from the client service standpoint, and the model that we can put together for the client. You really feel like they've got your back, and they're doing their job. They're keeping it out, making sure that you're not getting close to any, towing any lines or crossing any lines, but you have the freedom to be the financial advisor, to actually sit down and dig into your clients' lives and get to know them and get to know their friends and really build out those relationships. And it gives the client something to talk about. And it's going to sound arrogant, but we love going up against wirehouses now. Just because we know it's nothing against those advisors and their capability, or it's nothing against those advisors and their knowledge, but it is, they're limited in their capabilities, and we know that. We know they can't put together the same package that we can put together. So that's probably been the biggest boon to our business.
I think there's also something to be said around, owning your own business, and people understand the risk that it takes to step out on your own and run your own business. And when you see success with it, I think it gives people more confidence. And so just even the organic relationships that you make in life, and your kids' sports teams and just, friend groups or church, you tend to get a lot more people reach out and say, hey, I'd like some help. And that just didn't happen very often when I was at Wells, right? So, and I don't know if it's just something there's a difference mentally that people experience when they see, oh, you're at Wells working for an institution and you're an advisor. Okay, well, there's 8 billion advisors out there, and everybody, so what makes it different? Well, I think the credibility of owning your own business and knowing the work it takes to make that succeed, and the culture we've built here, it just creates a sense of credibility for us that makes people feel more confident, and had a lot more people even come to us just organically in the relationships that we have with people in our lives.
I love it, guys. This is so helpful. I know it's just going to be so valuable for advisors that are on the fence and just want to get an inside look in terms of what a jump like this looks like. I guess my last question is for people out there that are thinking, should I stay? Should I go? You have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say that obviously there's a lot of different business models out there. There's no one right way to run this business. Um, each model has its advantages and disadvantages. So do your research, obviously. But I'd say also find advisors that are already doing what you would like to be able to do. One of the things that we always tell folks, local advisors, we have local advisors here that, in a past life, we would have considered in competition and, wouldn't have had open conversations with. But, one of the things that is distinctive of Provista is that we want to raise the standard in the industry of ethics and quality. And so we are happy to share what we're doing, what we've done, what's been difficult about it, and how people may want to do it differently. And it's not just us. There's plenty of other advisors that we've found out there. It's prevalent in the Kestra community, where you can pick up the phone and call an advisor that's maybe not in your market, and talk to them about how they've been able to build what they've built, what's working, what's not. And you'll find a lot of commonality, I think, and find people that have already made some mistakes and learned from them. A lot of them who have left wirehouses and left other broker dealers, RIAs, whatever it is, and they've already had to go down this path. And so my experience has been that people are very open and willing to talk about it.
Yeah, and I would share, that's one thing that attracted us to Kestra is the culture that they've built in the PWS side. And it's everybody we've met over these 3 years. You just really form these really good relationships and bonds because everybody's so open to it, like sharing what they're doing well and asking, what are you doing? What are you doing well? Oh man, that's great. And I feel like you always learn something in a way to get better. And like Clark said, our desire was to raise the standard of ethics in this industry. I mean, there's not enough advisors in this industry. And we want every client and every person out there to have a really good advisor. And that may be us, it may be someone else. And, so we've had the chance to talk to other advisors who have made a transition to independence, and, we're open and sharing what we've done well, what they need to be thinking about. And so I would or just urge you, if you're considering it, talk, ask someone. You obviously want to keep it confidential that you're considering leaving. So you need to talk to people you can trust, but talk to other firms. Don't be afraid to join a team, to partner with somebody. Don't just chase the dollar, chase the money. Find a place that fits your soul and what you're trying to build in your business. And, independence can feel scary, but the freedom is 100% worth it.
I love it. And I know we've talked in the past, for the right fit and the right philosophical alignment, with your organization and you guys individually, you're potentially looking to bring on some other people to the organization as well. So I just wanted to make sure that was put out there and known for anyone that's taken a look. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. I really think this is super helpful. You guys have built something really, really special, and I know it's going to be continue to be really successful. So congrats on what you've built. I appreciate you guys being on. I appreciate everyone listening to the podcast today. I hope you found the information super helpful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Working with someone like myself that could talk unbiasedly about all of the firms out there, not just one in the marketplace, can just help make your process so much easier. My contact information's all over my YouTube channel, my podcast, my website, CoreyWhalen.com. Guys, thank you so much again. I hope you have a fantastic day.